Defying Israel's blockade of Gaza, Swedish and Norwegian activists set sail on a trawler carrying humanitarian aid to desperate Palestinians. The U.S. prison system under fire as Human Rights Watch warns that mentally ill detainees are being violently abused and neglected by officials. And Breakaway Brighton. Tory triumph in the UK's general election sees a group of citizens in a famous seaside town decide they'd rather be a nation alone. Welcome to the program here on RT International. We come to you live from Moscow. The entire news team here putting together your top worldwide news. And pro-Palestine activists from Sweden and Norway have boarded a trawler in Gothenburg and are heading straight for Gaza. The ship is carrying humanitarian aid, medical equipment and solar panels and is part of a flotilla of 3, which is aiming to break Israel's blockade of the Gaza Strip with non-violent action. Israel, meantime, has condemned the flotilla as an unnecessary provocation. Israel warning it will not allow any ship to pass. Well, Israel's response to this humanitarian mission will be closely watched. 5 years ago, 10 Turkish activists trying to reach Gaza and deliver aid were killed by Israeli troops who had boarded their vessel. Those actions sparked an international outcry, but Israel insists its troops justifiably acted in self-defense, protecting themselves and protecting their country. While activists are trying to reach Gaza, they say the blockade is illegal and inhumane, and it must be broken as soon as possible. Well, over a decade, Israel has imposed a number of restrictions on Gaza, strangling off the delivery of goods and tourism in and out of the Strip. In 2006, when Hamas came to power, restrictions were broadened to become a full-scale blockade. And a year later, the sanctions were made even more severe. As a result, the situation in Gaza is dire. We spoke to one activist involved in aid flotillas. He says the international community has got to put pressure on Israel.
Our goal and purpose is to break the siege of Gaza. The international community that should work hard and should pressure Israel to lift this illegal blockade that have been there over 8 years and have not led to other than suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza. The Gaza is the port of Palestine. Gaza is the window and the door of Palestine to the world. So it's our task as citizens of the world to show our governments that we don't accept this situation. We don't accept that 1.5 million people are in kind of an outdoor prison and nobody cares. We care, and we are going to do everything we can to show that we care. The Israelis who are breaking international law, we are not breaking anything. If we break anything, we break an illegal siege.
Canada is reportedly preparing to use hate propaganda charges against organizations that support Palestinians. RT's In the Now has a look at why.
In Canada, politicians are sending a strong message to pro-Palestinian activists, applying a, quote, zero-tolerance approach to their anti-Israeli stance. The main target is boycott, divestment and sanctions movement, or BDS. It was created in 2005 with endorsement of almost 200 Palestinian organizations and grew into one of the most powerful pro-Palestinian movements worldwide. Their methods are usual: media outreach, public speaking, demonstrations and political lobbying. the criticism of your organization, BDS, and what you think is being done against it in the country. The accusation is that it promotes hatred against Israel instead of peaceful coexistence.
It is a non-violent movement. So, in one sense, if there are those who are calling for a non-violent resistance movement, this is what it is. And it is a call, an endorsement as global solidarity movement that is endorsing and reacting to the call by Palestinian civil society organizations. Just 2 weeks ago, the United Nations came out with a report stating that the Israeli government deliberately, intentionally targeted schools in Gaza in the last bombardment of Gaza in the summer of 2014 that resulted in the deaths of 44 civilians, which were inclusive of the more than 2,000 civilians or Palestinians, a majority of whom were civilians that were killed in the bombardment last summer, more than 500 of whom were children. Clear violations of international law.
It's RT International. Abused, shackled and tasered. Human Rights Watch has revealed mentally ill people are being shockingly abused in American detention centers. A warning, you may find some of the upcoming images disturbing.
Across the United States, officers use force against prisoners with mental disabilities unnecessarily, excessively, and even maliciously.
What is going on?
Mr. Lopez had a grand mal seizure. It was clearly audible and visible from where all the guards were.
And no one lifts a finger to help him.
It's estimated there are some 35,000 patients with mental illness in U.S. hospitals, but that's dwarfed by the number being kept behind bars, some 350,000. Deborah Golden, a campaigner for prisoners' rights, says it's a system where mentally ill people are more likely to be locked up than get proper treatment.
I think what we have is a system that inevitably leads to people who have mental illness being tucked away in prisons and jails. We've cut back on mental health care in the community. We've instituted the war on drugs and a get tough on crime mentality, which often criminalizes very behavior that comes out of mental illness. And so these people have been pushed into a system that was never set up as a treatment system.
The abuse appears to be part of a wider trend. According to a documentary by one activist media company, officers are not properly trained to deal with mentally ill detainees.
Jails are the #1 mental health facilities across the country. They house more mentally ill person versus any hospital, any psych facilities, anything. They're patients, not prisoners. I would get calls all the time when I was on patrol for a person who was in a mental health crisis. I had no clue how to handle it. And I would just keep getting the repeat calls every couple days or every week to the same house, the same person. And I just accepted it that, this person's just going to be a repeat caller.
Now, we're tracking the story online right now. You can head to rt.com for a statement now from the human rights activists and much more background as well. Well, still to come, a political unrest gripping Macedonia. And as demonstrations demanding the government's resignation refuse to die down, neighboring states warn of an influx of illegal immigrants. If you are unhappy with the government that has just been voted in, what can you do? RT's Anastasia Churkina went to one famous seaside town which has decided, perhaps not entirely seriously, that independence is the only answer.
Welcome to Brighton, a small seaside picturesque town in the UK just over an hour's drive from London. Here, a group of Brits was so disenchanted with Conservatives staying in power following the UK's general elections, they're saying enough, we're breaking away as the People's Republic of Brighton and Hove. The idea of this new country was so popular on social media that just in a matter of days they've gathered 10,000 supporters and counting. The founders of this new republic are saying the idea, of course, is a joke, but one with a very strong message.
I felt a deep despair with the rest of England, and I thought, maybe we should become independent of them. We're just fed up with the Tories and we want to govern our own lives.
Do you think we're going to see London try to get you guys back, get the Republic to come back into the UK?
Well, if we reach enough people, they might start getting annoyed or upset, yes.
We may be light-hearted and, treat things with a little bit of a joke, but we're less of a joke than the electoral system of the UK.
The flag, it looks like we've got. The Constitution's being argued over. The anthem, no, it needs to be written.
If somebody could introduce some wind into the flag, that would be good.
You're the youngest country in the world. Are you going to be bidding for a place at the UN?
I think we should. I think we deserve it.
Tell me about the refugees. You guys are already getting people basically asking you for political asylum, right? From across the UK, is that
They're
true?
all over the UK.
Will you have a military, or are you anti-war and all defense issues?
We have no intention of having a military.
We're sitting tanning in the sun a little bit. Is this what people here are basically going to be known for, more or less?
We've got the sea here. It's pretty beautiful, really.
The UK was a merry-go-round of political uncertainty ahead of the elections. Now David Cameron's Conservatives have thrown on the party hats of victory, and the debate over Britain leaving the EU is back on the table. The citizens of this imaginary country say, hey, we can do the same. Away from the policies of the Conservatives, our land is a better place. Anastasia Churkina, RT, Brighton.
Now it's time for a very, very short break here on RT International, though when we return, Vienna's newly designed pedestrian lights. Believe it or not, they're sparking wicked controversy. Back with that story in a sec.